her husband. And one of also the oppression that the wives commit toward her husband is being or treat him poorly, showing him no respect in terms of communication. And when she talks to him, she talks to him as if he is an enemy to her. She would raise her voice. She would use some foolish words and foul words. She would not pay attention to what comes out from her mouth when she speaks to her husband. But when she speaks to her friends, she would probably lay the road for them with red carpets. She would throw flowers on their way, talking to them, praising them, showing them the love comes out from her tongue before even coming out from her heart. And when her husband comes, the first welcome that he will receive is some criticism, and she will criticize him. Forgetting that the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that a woman who obeys her husband, this is equivalent to the jihad in the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal wa fi sabilillahi Azza wa Jal. And one of the means in which a wife can cause oppression toward her husband is when she refuses to bed with him without any valid excuse, without any Islamic excuse. And this is an injustice toward the rights of the husbands. And the major issue, the major calamity here is when there is someone is involved in this decision. The mukhabbib or the mukhabbiba. The mukhabbiba is a woman, an evil woman who spoil the wife against her husband, or a man who tend to be that he is a man who's trying to resolve the matter for her and help her in a way he thinks Islamically, and then changes or brainwash the wife against her husband. And when she came home, then she began to utilize this as a means to refuse the husband and to push him away. Forgetting the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he told us that if a woman refused to bed with her husband without a valid excuse, then the one in the heaven, which is Allah Azza wa Jal, and the angels will be angry with her as long as her husband forgives her. If the husband forgives her and is happy with her, then the anger will be lifted away from the wife. And the wise woman, a sensible woman, is the woman who should not deny the rights of the husband. And there are evil, subhanallah, mukhabbibat, evil sisters, who uses also this as a mean to advise some of the wives to refuse them in bed, because they say you will find how angry he will get. And if you want to know the nature of your husband, this is their advice. If you would like to see the real nature of your husband, refuse him in bed and see how violent he's going to get. And subhanallah, and this is normal with human being, males in general, if their sexual desire is not fulfilled, then they behave in a different manner. This is a nature embedded in man, human being, and all men. Who is a man? I'm talking about who is a real man. This is embedded within them, but they wants to show them that this negative behavior from your husband illustrate that your husband, he's not worthy for you to spend the rest of your life with him. And they put these poisonous ideas in their minds, causing the woman to cause oppression against her husband, in which they will be severely held accountable before Allah Azza wa Jal. And a wise woman, a very sensible woman also, is the woman who would not try, a woman who will try to avoid disapproving, disrecognizing the kindness and the loyalty of her husband toward her. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ya ma'ashar nisa, O women, give charity. For verily I have seen you being the majority of the inhabitants of the hellfire. And some of the companion women, they said, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, what is the reason? Why is this? Why are we being the majority of the inhabitants of the fire?" He said, "Because you frequently curse, and you deny your husband's loyalty, your husband's rights." When a husband in a very flourished life and he is well off financially, they will give and they will not be stingy or miserly. But in some circumstances, some husbands, they go through financial difficulties in which prevent them from being generous to their wives. And when they go and they speak to this mukhabbibat, to these evil women, they use again this as a mean to persuade the woman to open her eyes and to see this is a form of stinginess from your husband towards you. And we have seen some of the husbands who tried their best to bring their wives from abroad, and for the purpose of trying to provide, facilitate a better future for their children. And when the wives comes to this country, then they go wild, they go rebellious against their husbands. Why? Because of the mukhabbibat who play with their minds. You are living in this society and the welfare system will take care of you and you will live like a queen. You do not need your husband. You do not need this man. The government will take care of you. They put this poisonous idea in their mind and not the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then they end up asking for divorce, which we'll speak about at the end of these oppression facts. And they end up asking for divorce for the purpose of that she feels that her husband is not fulfilling her rights, that her husband is not giving her as much as he used to. Her husband is not paying attention as much as he used to. They will come up with many excuses, many reasons as to why they should stay away from their husbands, while they did not pay attention to these factors at the start of their marriage. Why is it now? It's because this evil woman has intervened between these happy couples and then destroyed their marriage. And the Prophet ﷺ instructing the women to recognize the loyalty of her husband, the generosity of her husband, the kindness of her husband that he has been doing in those previous maybe 5 years of marriage, 10 years of marriage, or in circumstances 20 years of marriage. And there is a woman who refused, a husband who complained about his wife. She refused to bed with him for an entire year. And this woman now thinks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with her if she does not have a valid reason. Then imagine for an entire year, and the anger of the one above is descending upon her lives. Brothers and sisters, one of the means of wives, or of the oppression of wives toward their husbands, is that they will neglect the tarbiyah, the upbringing of the children. Especially these days, with the widespread of social media and the smartphones, you see many of the wives spend more time on social media, more time on their phones, and they're neglecting the tarbiyah of their kids. If they were to spend a fraction of the time they spend on social media and try to invest in the children for themselves, for their own akhirah, and they bring out children who can benefit the ummah, they will see this on the day of judgment better than the wealth in the entire world, in the entire dunya. And that is because, again, it goes back to the mukhabbibat. Why is it only you, my dear sister? That is their claim. Why is it only you, my dear sister, who's always paying attention to the children? Why is it you, the only one who takes the kids to the Quran classes? Why is it only you, dear sister, who goes to the parents' evening schools? Why is it only you, dear sister, who go and prepare the clothes and the food, the Eid gifts for your children, and your husband's doing nothing? This is an evil snake, a woman who spread these evil ideas in another wife's head. She is a poisonous snake that need to be isolated. because Islam have rules, and this woman comes and then try to negate and then wage war against the rules of Allah Azza wa Jal. The marriage rules are a divine legislations, have been legislated by Allah Azza wa Jal, not by man-made or human being. If it is were to be left for human being, then no wife will ever be happy. And they get a woman who comes and intervene in the divine rules legislated by Allah Azza wa Jal. And also, one of the means of wives or of oppression, the husband causing oppression to the husbands, is the excessive expenditure, unnecessary excessive expenditure. You see, some of the women, all what they want is to compete with the other women. They would want to dress in the same manner this woman is dressing. They would want to have in the house and decorations, the furnitures, the carpets, the wall, even the paints, as the other women have in their house, And then she would pressurize. Maybe sometimes there are some of the wives who push and pressurize the husband to take another job for the sake of getting the Botox expenditure, just filling their hair into their body, injecting their bodies just to customize their body how they want it. And this is, subhanAllah, is a sign of being not satisfied with the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. Not just causing oppression, but the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal here is also being defied by these sisters. And some of the sisters, she said that some of the sisters, they went shopping and she had Aldi bag. She was holding Aldi bag. She said, some of the sisters, they snatched the Aldi bag from my hand and they said, how can you carry this bag? This is a cheap place and they start talking about it. And then she said, if I had a weak heart and I fell for it, I would have gone home and destroyed my husband. She said, since then I stopped walking with these sisters. And I will conclude with the final one, and my apology for prolonging the khutbah because I was late. And I will conclude with this. An oppression that if a sister practice it, then she will not just destroy her life, she could destroy her children, her akhirah, is when she asks for a divorce without a valid reason. And the Prophet ﷺ has made it clear, which means if a wife asks for a divorce without a valid reason, the fragrance of Jannah becomes haram over her. Meaning she will never smell Jannah, not let alone admitted or enter Jannah. And again, if you go back to the reason, it's because of the mukhabbiba or mukhabbibat, the woman she mixes up with, or some man who intervene in their lives. And some of the sisters, they think that maybe some men around, they can advise them to the best of their interest. And then they began to talk about their husbands in a negative manner, saying that you will get many men who will be knocking in your door if you divorce your husband. The way that you look, you're still young, you still have a very attractive personality, very attractive characters. They beautify the path to Jahannam for them. And they fall for it. The masakeen, a weak wife will fall for it. And they like to be persuaded. They like to be exaggerated. They like to be spoken in a manner that left their spirit up. And they fall for it. And they go to the husband. They start feeling that they're not happy with their husband. They start identifying the mistakes that they have telling them. If your husband doesn't mix with you, if your husband's always on the phone, he doesn't like you. If your husband come home from work and he's miserable, he's not happy with you. If your husband doesn't want to intervene and bring in the children, he doesn't like you, so you are living a life of hell, they say to them. So just get rid of him. You can divorce him. And they persuade them. And when they divorce, they cry. They regret listening to these mukhabbib or mukhabbiba. And the worst thing is when they have children between them. Here, she have caused oppression against the children, against her husband, and against Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. With this I conclude, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us, to make us among those who worship Him in a manner that He is pleased with, and to make us among those who follow the correct guidance of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma a'izz al-Islam wal-Muslimin وارفع بفضلك راية الحق والدين. اللهم وأصلح من فيه صلاحا للإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم اغفر لمن حضر جمعتنا هذه ولوالديه، وافتح اللهم موعظة سمع قلبه وأذنيه. اللهم اغفر لآبائنا ولأمهاتنا ولإخواننا وأخواتنا ومشائخنا وعلمائنا، واغفر لهم لأموات المسلمين والمسلمات، المؤمنين والمؤمنات، الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العلي العظيم يذكركم، واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم، ولذكر الله أكبر، والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة. بسم الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين، آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون، واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا، واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا، وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها، كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين، يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.